right, y'all ready? Budget workshop. She said she's on the Vimeo. I'm sure that's accurate. You saying Brian Daniels? Never say that. All right, y'all ready? All right. It's called the Board of Supervisors order. As always, let's start with pledge allegiance and allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we do have a quorum. Ms. Hoffman, do you have a resolution for us?
I do. Do we adopt the agenda first or not?
So, Greg, should we do the agenda first, or can we do the adoption of the electronic attendance for?
I would do that.
All right, thank you. We do have an agenda in front of us. The only one that I've got to add is the sheriff department bonuses, oversight on, I guess, our part, pertaining to 4 or 5 employees.
Going to hold.
Put it as 5B. You also have anything to add? Yes, sir. Let's add, I guess we'll add the electronic meeting resolution or motion right after or right before public comment. Yes, I mean, there is probably a long place there. Anybody else got anything?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ms. Hoffman?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Foster advised you on January the 12th, 2021, that she will be unable to be physically present for this meeting due to contact with an individual who is believed to have been exposed to COVID-19. For the record, please note that the member is participating from her residence. Accordingly, or pursuant to Section 2.4F of the Madison County Board of Supervisors bylaws and rules of procedure, I move to conduct this meeting electronically in compliance with Virginia Code 2.2-3708.2 and confirm that A, a quorum of the board is physically present, B, adequate arrangements have been made for the voice of the member to be heard by all persons in this room.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Amber, can you hear us? Is he texting or typing or?
If she's on Vimeo, is she a few seconds behind us? Oh, good.
There you go. Good. Good. All right, good.
Does she vote aye?
Did you vote aye on? Aye. Yep, there you go. Better. All right. We've adopted an agenda and we've done a resolution. Public comment. Public comment. Public comment. Anybody? Anybody on the tech deal, public commenting?
The only thing is someone said, Chairman, it's hard to understand. May need a mic check.
If I talk into the mic, I'm gonna yell at you people. It will be inadvertent. All right, moving on. First appearance, we do have Mr. Foley from Robinson Farmer Cox. He's running a couple minutes behind, so let's start with Mr. Mitch with Mad Cats. Welcome, Mr. Mitch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me behind this mask?
You project well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come and brief you here, especially considering that the county was nice enough to give us some support this past year. Our trap neuter vaccinate return program. Oh, thank you.
Our trap neuter vaccinate return program processed 580 cats in Madison County, cats and kittens this past year. And that included 130 kittens and young adult cats, which came into our foster program, as well as they did get fixed. And it included 100 domestic cats, owned cats that came back to their owners, and 350 community or colony cats. Those are cats that were fed, for example, by people, and they're not really feral cats. They're fed and they live in colonies. So they're relatively friendly cats. And 150 individuals and families, including the caretakers, were assisted with low cost or no cost spay neuter services, and we trapped them. We provided housing of some sort for them. And if you'll flip to the next slide, please. We have a foster home program. 130 kittens and young adults were taken into our foster care. They got food, medication. We've got equipment that we used in this program. Supplies were donated by our Mad Cats volunteers. Spent about $10,000 on veterinary care, including vaccinations and preventive treatment. Some of the cats had to get surgeries. All the foster kittens and adults were transferred to larger no-kill rescue organizations where they were adopted out of Madison County. They all left the county. We also have a colony food distribution program. Our colony feeders supported 5 colonies at the beginning of the year. They now support 8. We provided 150 pounds of dry cat food, and we provided winter shelters on request. What we do is we take these styrofoam containers, turn them into cat shelters. We stuff them with straw and weight them down with a rock on top. Most of our colony feeders are people of very modest means, and they do a pretty good job. If I could have the next slide, please. Oh, thank you. We've been affected by COVID-19 just like everybody else. Our primary low-cost clinics in Fredericksburg and Charlottesville have closed. They closed in the spring. So we're using Anacera veterinary centers in Harrisonburg and Manassas. They are more expensive. We used to get $60 per surgery. Now we spend $100 in Harrisonburg and $120 in Manassas. And the other little wrinkle due to the plague is that fundraising is now less than 20% of our income. We used to get a lot of money from the Grace festivals. We set up booths, sold socks and such. I believe my wife showed the board socks once upon a time, but there's only one Grace festival this year, so that's really affected us. We do have other sources of income, however. What's been the impact of our program as we see it? We've done some mathematical analysis on this. We use a globally recognized statistical method to try to calculate our impact. We did 290 female cats this year, about a half of the 580 we did. The average litter of a female cat's 4 kittens. That's 1,160 kitten births we most likely prevented in this county. Fewer cats would be surrendered to the shelter as a result, fewer cats euthanized. That gives you a healthier cat population in the county, and fewer cats that have to be transferred for adoption outside of the county. And we have some statistics from your shelter here that tends to reflect exactly that. You, in fact, are euthanizing fewer cats. You're intaking fewer cats. You have fewer cats dying in your shelter and fewer necessary adoptions in your shelter. So we can't necessarily take credit for all those reduced numbers, but those numbers do tend to reflect the numbers that are numbers as well. Here's a look at our income, and I show you this because you gave us $1,000, for which we are quite grateful. 46% of our numbers were from individual donations. We got about 12% of our money from Facebook, about 20% from festivals and events. We got some matching grants, about 8%, We have donation cans out in Culpeper and Madison County, got about 4%. And Get a Local Piedmont, got about 9.5%. So we're kind of scratching here, there, and everywhere to get money, including from Madison County, which we appreciate. And here's where we spend our money. Vet treatment, 53.5%. You'll note that we spent $47,000 on our trap, neuter, and return program. That included a good chunk of money from an anonymous foundation in the county. Administrative costs, we kept to 7.1%. We spent 10.8% on our colony cats. We 6.2% on fostering and fundraising, 7.9%. Trap, neuter, return equipment, mostly traps and a few odds and ends, 9.2%, and some on vet supplies, 5.2%. In summary, we think we've developed and implemented an effective program in Madison County. We served 150 individuals and families in your county, 580 cats, spayed, neutered, returned, vaccinated. During this period, we've seen the intake in your shelter fall. And we think we've been part of that. The number of euthanized cats has really fallen, not just the number, but the percentage. And you're tracking now much closer to the average in the state. And we think we are a big part of that contribution. And we thank you very much for this opportunity to provide this information to you, as well as for your generous donation to our operations. If you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Thank you for all the work. And your administrative costs are great. We wish you could talk to some other outside organizations. You have any questions for Mr. Mish?
No, I don't have a question. I'm hearing good things about your organization, and I bought a couple pair of socks at the Atlant store, and they were a hit for Christmas. So.
I'm glad to hear that. We've got children's socks as well, and we're.
I don't have any of those.
Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Mish?
Well, I'm available anytime for questions. Thank you very much.
All right, no David Foley yet. We do have a consent agenda in front of us. We have the minutes from December 8th, January 4th, and January 6th. There's a request for a VDOT study on speed limit signs on Route 699 Lester Rouge Lane. We have the public hearing, which is scheduled for renaming the Lotto Run to Pass Run on February 9th. The PRA reimbursement for social media archiving, which they kind of got ahead of us, and now it looks like we've kind of switched and we're going to work together on. Paying capital projects invoices from the bonds, and then the supplemental appropriation to the school board. Anybody have any questions or things that need to be pulled?
No, Mr. Chairman, I need to, I guess, abstain on B.
All right, what about if we pull B from it and do it as a separate?
Right.
Anybody else? MJ?
Is there any way on the bond proceed numbers? Because I think that what was on the agenda as of Friday was only from the school board. And there's actually several other things. There's a mission critical partners bill. There's a Motorola bill, and the Motorola bill is almost $2 million. And there's an architect bill for $11,000. Is there any way that you could approve that? At least the Motorola, because I think the expectation is.
It is at the bottom of the agenda. We've got capital project
Oh, okay,
invoices
so I
to
don't,
pay.
okay.
And
I
that
see that. It
covers,
changed, okay,
that covers all three of those.
okay.
Other than B, do we need to pull anything?
No, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda less Part B, the minutes from the January 4th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Amber? She just typed in the letter I.
I don't see her on here.
Yeah, thank God the planning commission tasked us with broadband work. We're gonna get to that very soon. All right. Moving on, we've done everything with B. What would you like to do with item B?
Mr.
Yep.
Chairman, I move to approve consent agenda B.
I second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed and abstaining. Mr. McGee abstained. Moving into constitutional offices, county departments, committees, and organizations. Ligon?
We don't have any public hearings for February, so we are going to meet next week, the planning commission, just work session items. Otherwise, a few things go out before zoning fields, all places are back before zoning fields again. Other than that, things go well.
Like we saw at last Wednesday's meeting, the planning commission passed along to us the resolution or their motion to start working on broadband. Speaking to Mr. Hobbs, I think it's pertinent to Ligon shop because he works so much in with them. Start coming up with a plan and it'll be on the agenda on the 26th.
Yeah, I spoke with Mike Mosco the other day, and so I was going to bring that up later on new business, and so I would suggest that perhaps that Mike and myself and Peter work, and Kevin, if he would like, or Charlotte, to form the committee to try to figure out who should be on the authority board.
Why don't we call your group a
Task force to come up with the authority, the makeup of the authority. If we decide, in fact, to go with the authority, let's put it that way.
Like a very
All right.
reasonable direction to go. Want to proceed with that direction at this point?
Yeah.
Work with Mr. Hobbs, get on the agenda for where we go on January 26th.
All right.
Seems reasonable. Thank you. I would keep going, but Mr. Foley's here. Good to see you, Mr. Foley. Come on up and tell us about the audit. I'm sure you're gonna make it exciting. Action packed, that's what we like to say.
Yeah, we were worried sick, David.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. Sorry I was late. I was at a previous presentation prior to this, but drove as fast as I could while staying within the speed limit to get here as fast as I could. So we have completed the audit for the county's fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020, and so I'm here to present the results to you all. So as part of the audit, we issue two different documents. The one's the audited financial report, and the second is our communication letter with those charged with governance. I'll start first with the audited financial report. And included in the county's audited financial report are three different reports from us that communicate the results of the audit. So as part of the audit that we do, there's really three main pieces to the audit that we do for the county. One, of course, is we audit the financial statements to make sure that they're prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The other two pieces of the audit that we do in accordance with government auditing standards. One of those is, in addition to just looking at the numbers themselves, we look at the internal controls that the county has over financial reporting. So as part of the audit, we'll look at those controls and test those to make sure that they're operating as they were designed. And then the third and final piece of the audit that we do is the federal compliance audit. So as part of the county has various federal grant programs that it expends during the year. And there are various compliance requirements that the county has to comply with when it's carrying out and expending those federal grant programs. So as part of the audit, the third piece of the audit that we do is for the major federal programs that the county has, we review those compliance requirements to make sure that the county is complying with those federal grant requirements. So those are the three main pieces of the audit. So as such, there are three reports included in the audited financial statements. The first report from us is towards the beginning of the report. It's actually numbered page 1. And this is our independent auditor's report. And in this report is where we state we did perform an audit on the county's financial statements. This report talks about management's responsibility for the financial statements, which management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements. This report talks about our responsibilities as auditors, which we are to issue an opinion on the county's financial statements. And then if we go to the top of page 2 of this report is where we issue our opinion on the county's financial statements. We have issued an unmodified opinion on the county's financial statements, which is the cleanest opinion an auditor can give on the set of financial statements. Basically, a unmodified opinion means that the county's financial statements have been prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The other two reports from us are in the back of the report, back in the compliance section. So the first report back there is on numbered page 142. And this is our report over the county's internal control over financial reporting. This report was clean as well. We noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the county's internal control over financial reporting. We feel that the county has strong controls in place over its financial reporting. And 2 pages over is the, starting on page 144. This is the third and final report from us, and this is our report over the county's compliance with its major federal grant programs. This report was clean as well. No significant deficiencies or material weaknesses were noted as part of the federal grant compliance audit, as well as there were no other issues of noncompliance noted as part of the audit. So all three reports from us were clean. So another clean audit for the county. Just would like to highlight a few financial statements included in the audited financial statements. The first is on page 16, numbered page 16. And this is Exhibit 3, which is a balance sheet for the county's governmental funds. And this statement reports the assets, liabilities, deferred inflows, and then fund balances for the county's governmental funds. There's columns for the 2 different governmental funds that the county has: the general fund, which of course is the main operating fund of the county, as well as the capital improvement fund, and then a total column to show the total funds. So we see at the end of the fiscal year, the county's total assets for the general fund were $40.2 million, and then total assets for the governmental funds overall were 40.5. And then as we compare that to the total liabilities and the deferred inflows, for the general fund was about $8.7 million, which left a total fund balance at the end of the fiscal year of 31.4 million. Again, fund balance is the excess of the county's assets over its liabilities. And so that 31.4 million is also further broken down into the various classes of fund balance, what's non-spendable, what's restricted, what's committed, assigned, and then the unassigned fund balance. So at the end of the fiscal year, the county's general unassigned fund balance was a little over 10 million. And the other financial statement I just wanted to highlight was the next page over on page 17. That's a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This report shows the revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance during the fiscal year for the county. Again, this has various columns for the different funds. So for the fiscal year, the county's general fund had total revenues of 28.7 million compared to total expenditures of 36 million. And then we can see 3/4 of the way down the changes in fund balance. The county's general fund balance increased by 14.9 million, and small decrease in the fund balance for the capital improvement fund. And then overall fund balance increased during the fiscal year of 14.9 million. Of course, a large part of that is the bonds that were issued that for various projects that are still being spent. But so that's all I have on the audited financial statements. The other document I wanted to go over was our communication letter with those charged with governance. Again, this letter, this is a separate letter that's outside of the audited financial statements. Basically, auditing standards require that we communicate certain things to you all at the end of an audit. So we do so in the form of this communication letter. Just briefly go through some of these communications. Some qualitative aspects of accounting practices. Again, we communicate that management is responsible for the selection and appropriate use of accounting policies. Accounting estimates are a part of preparing the financial statements. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We had no difficulties in dealing with management as part of the audit. If we had any, we would have to disclose those to you all. Really, Mary Jane and all the county staff do an excellent job of not only preparing for us to have a bunch of documents ready when we come on site, but then they also do an excellent job of providing any additional information that we need while we're here to do the audit, as well as answer any questions that we may have. We certainly understand that, the county staff has their normal jobs that they're dealing with, even when we're here, but they, still do an excellent job of working with us to get the audit, allow us to get the audit completed. So just like to commend the staff on being so cooperative to work with. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. There were no uncorrected misstatements. Any entries that we had were posted to the county's accounting system, and that way the county's internal accounting system agrees with what you're seeing in the audited financial statements. Disagreeing with management. Again, we had no disagreements with management in completing the audit. Again, if we had any disagreements, we'd have to disclose the nature of those to you all. Management representations. We do request certain representations from management in the form of a signed rep letter at the end of the audit. And then lastly, management consultations with other independent accountants. As far as we're aware, management not consult with other independent accountants in terms of second opinion shopping. But again, those are just required communications we have to make to you all at the end of an audit. But again, it was a clean audit for the county. But that's all I have, but I'd be happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Last question.
Well, let's see, David, so in your opinion, the unassigned fund balance, is that a healthy balance we've got there?
Yeah, so
I'm sure you all have some metrics y'all can look at where we stand, and so in your opinion, we're healthy.
Yeah, I believe so. So, I know that GFOA and maybe even some financial advisors generally recommend that you have an unassigned fund balance of anywhere to 20 to 25% of general fund expenditures. And so you can see you guys are ahead of that.
We are 27, I think I saw.
Yeah, so your total expenditure, total general fund expenditures are 36 million compared to the unassigned fund balance of 10. So you're exceeding that 20 to 25% threshold. And that's even with the county refunded some bonds this year. So the debt service looks a little higher because of that. And so even with those, inflated numbers because of the refunding, your fund balance is still at those levels.
Yeah, when we look through this stuff, I mean, this, the debt financing we did really throws these numbers. You got to read the notes to even compare apples to apples on this, but I went through it pretty thoroughly. I think Jack did, and MJ probably did. So, and it looks like, did I read this right? We had $1.001 million left in education expenditures. That's on page 11. Page 11.
I don't have the report with me. I need to look at what you're.
Right there, the county's operating budget.
So generally, the school board does not look at their total budget, like total expenditures versus where they end up. They tend to look at the local government number. That's the number that they're very interested in, which is what they call their carry forward. So it's how much did we tell the county we were going to need from them versus how much we actually used. That surplus this year was between $700,000 and $800,000.
Yeah.
That's not on that schedule. It's in a different place. But
it's in the schedule.
We'll be hearing from them again about that number.
Right. Well, I just want to say that for all the general public that's here, having an audit with no adjustments is no small task. And I just want to thank MJ and schools and PRA and all the departments for providing you all with the information, because these guys, the more we do in the county to provide them schedules, these guys are not cheap. So we get them in here and you guys take care of getting them the information they need and send them back to Charlottesville. So good.
Right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
You guys have any questions?
I had one thing.
Please.
So not only have I think we've contributed to keeping our audit fees down, but we've also, over the course of the last 5 years, drastically reduced our reliance on our outside accountant, where about 5 years ago, you were paying her somewhere between $18,000 and $20,000, and this year the bill was $6,000. That's the lowest. That's the lowest it's ever been.
And that's because of the work that the county's able to do in-house.
And PRA's doing okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A couple years ago, we had to do some internal controls on PRA.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. A few years ago, we looked at that and provided a lot of recommendations, and they've done an excellent job of implementing those policies and procedures. So
I'm sorry,
they do a
for
good job
the
of
general
that.
public, that's Parks and Rec.
Can I say one other thing? I really want to congratulate RFC because they got our CAFR filed on December 15th. And getting the volume of work that they do around the state to get that done 2 weeks ahead of time it's amazing. Thank you very much for doing it because you helped me to.
Right. Well, it's a joint effort too. You know, the county has a lot of work on their end that they have to do to be able to meet this deadline. And, you know, this year was probably even more difficult to try and do that with the CARES funding and trying to figure out all that and how to spend it. And so there was a lot going on. So to be able to get the audit done and completed and actually turned into the state by the due date, I think was a big accomplishment for the county.
Anything else, Mr. Foley? Thank you very much, Mr. Foley.
All right, thank you all very much for having me.
All right, back to where we were on constitutional officer, county departments, committees, and organizations. Ms. Fry, how are you doing?
I don't have any applications for the RRCSD or IBA. I have one more week to advertise, so if y'all know anybody, just direct them, please.
Don't have any more suggestions? Right here.
Think about it. My guy was late last night, so.
SOEI forms to you, so I'd like those back by the 29th.
January, please. So we'll have to drive on a little bit.
But that's it.
Thanks, Ms. Fry. Commish?
No report.
Nothing.
We are doing so.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're assessing, and finish up the new construction. Let the assessor run out and grab all that information. We're working on processing that. We'll have value change hearings probably in February. Those pulling in D&D items, working on those. So we got a lot going on this.
Pretty good. Ms. Love?
Well, every month I tell you, you're busy, and we are. For December, we sent 92,000 to the state and 30,000 to the county. We recorded 243 deeds, 29 judgments, and we did 110 concealed handguns in December. Not all of them got issued because we didn't have a judge that last holiday part of it. For the year of 2020, we did 828,000 to the state and 298 to the county. And probably our deeds for the year, we ended up doing almost 400 deeds more than we did last year. And for me, my exciting news is that we applied for and got another library grant, and it's 4 books, and it comes to $11,667. They've already picked up those books for repair.
How many books did we do last year?
I am slowly chipping away at all those books, and we're getting them repaired.
Questions? How many books did we do last year?
We did 3 books and the big map.
No?
That was the big thing.
Yeah, so December was a pretty busy month. We did 167 calls, 10 minutes was our average response time. A lot of personnel changes. We have interviews tomorrow and the next day. We still have one FTE open. I made an offer today. Hopefully have that filled. Going to Indiana on the 27th to pick up number 40. So hopefully that goes smoothly. 30 is now fully in service. Overall. I did include our 2020 EMS responses, kind of by call type for your review. And just want to extend thank you to the board for your support. I had several family members over the last couple of weeks come by, actually gave me a hug. Folks that were not doing well and were resuscitated and were walking and talking. it's a good feeling.
John,
So Executive Order 72 is still in effect till January 31st. There's 19 pages of information about that. If you want to go through it, I would expect that order to be continued given the current climate of the virus. Currently, it's like we're at 364 cases total, 17 people required hospitalization, 5 people passed away. The new tab on the BDH site is the vaccination tab, where you can look in there and find out how many people have had the first shot, second shot, and track the progress of that. There was 210 people in Madison vaccinated with the first round. 15 people have got both shots now. Phase 1A, as you know, first responders, that's almost complete, and we're going to be overlapping into phase 1B starting next week. I would encourage everyone to go on the BDH website, and there's just so much information on there. I'd sit here and talk to you for an hour and a half about all the information. You go in there and just mine through it. There's a lot of stuff. You just keep in mind that this entire effort starts with the supply chain. Without the supply, it's hard to make these appointments and make this thing go. So 300 million people in the United States, just think about that, 2 shots in the arm. It's just a lot of administrative logistical challenges. So please keep that in mind. I can tell you that BBH, the conversations that I've heard between hospitals, everybody in between, everybody has got a positive attitude of how can I help, and not a whole lot of criticism. It's more of how can we make this process go smooth. So, I think if you look at the website, they've got a survey out, and as of yesterday, I understand there was 90 businesses with over 6,000 employees that responded to the survey. Also, they had 1,260 people over age 75 respond to the survey. So those numbers are jumping. That was yesterday. I don't even know what they look like today. So put in a supply request for PPE to be done today. Hopefully that'll come through. Mountain View Nursing Home had 65 folks vaccinated last Friday. Autumn Care gets their first round this Friday. I can tell you that talking to the directors at Mountain View, CVS did a pretty good job. At first, there was a couple hiccups. I think they learned that you can't get there at 9:45 and start getting people vaccinations at 10. You got to get there a little earlier than that. But overall, once they got their traction, the whole thing went smooth. So that's where we're at. 1B is going to be a long time. Like I said, it's just 1A went well, but 1B I think is going to be challenging. What can I help with?
No, I just want to, since he's got the ball rolling and it rolls right into this item 4 on the agenda, I thought I might tag on to what John's saying, but say the same thing in a different way because it's not unimportant for the county. We are still in a state of emergency. This pandemic is still a problem. The model says we're going to get a case peak sometime in February. I know that I've had conversations with several of you who, now everybody knows somebody that's got it or has had a real problem with it. And even to talk about this group, we have had folks that have to stay at home and not come to board meetings because of it. So it's out there and it's coming, and we just need to make sure that we're aware of that going forward. To support this business about phase 2 shots, there's a thing that says local government employees are eligible for it. We're not clear on which local government employees they're talking about, whether it's folks that are critical or folks that are in customer-facing positions. But we have a little Survey Monkey instrument underway right now to collect a list of folks with their emails on who is interested in it, so we can start working with, I suppose it's the health department, on getting folks lined up for that. So this is
when they ask.
right. So we're in this phase 1A now. They're starting to take appointments for phase 1B, I guess. So this is all projecting what's going to happen over the next month or so. And like John says, when we get to phase 2, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. And the health department is ramping up for all this, but it's taking time. One of the things that we did offer is that there's anything Madison County can do to help with that rollout. Not to steal John's thunder or Noah's, because they completely agree with this. If we have EMS folks that can give shots, we would want to help with that. That is one area where we can help. It's not just, we'd like to think that the Madison County Fire Department building is a great place to give the shots, but if they need help putting needles in arms, then we have folks that can do that. They need to help us track who's getting shots and follow up on the second shot and all this kind of stuff. But there are ways that we can help, and we might need to have to go above and beyond, and certainly we'll let the board know what's happening. But one of the characteristics of this whole business has been the rules keep changing, the challenges keep rolling at us, and it's almost like we're making it up as we go, but we're trying to make the best decisions we can as things evolve. I'm not sure we've made any mistakes, but this is just what we're dealing with. I would anticipate getting questions about what else the county could be doing as this thing gets worse and worse. And we ask that periodically. We talk about going back to locking the doors on county buildings and going to a more appointment basis approach. That's rational. I think the sheriff secured his building today for 2 weeks just to do more lockdown because they are concerned in that shop of what can happen. The another idea is that maybe the county could go to 100% virtual meetings. I'm not saying we're there yet, but that is something that's possible. So we have folks meet remotely, as a lot of places have done. We just not gotten there yet in Madison County. But like I say, we're looking for different and better ideas, and I think it's going to be more important over the next, what, John, 2 months probably?
Yeah, easy. So just to tag on to that, I just got this hour. Like I say, all this is changing as fast as you can imagine, and just got this hour ago. And one of the things that, so you understand, the vaccine can only be distributed, and I'm just reading off this, to licensed healthcare providers, pharmacies who have filled out several forms, confirmed that they have appropriate storage, and have been approved through VDH and the CDC. Our established providers, pharmacies are working through this process and are not quite approved yet, but we expect them to start receiving the vaccine soon. So it's just a constant moving target to, like I say, those folks, pharmacies, doctors' offices, but there's a lot of logistics involved. It's, rather just roll up to the driveway and shout them on.
Anybody have questions for John, Noah, Hobbs, any of this? I'm sure we've made some mistakes along the way. It's just the nature of learning a new business. Everybody seems to be acting responsibly in Madison, or hopefully they're acting responsibly. Keep going, see how it all plays out. What else can you do?
John, should we advise people to take that survey that's there's a link to a survey under the VDH website. So you should do it.
Find out whether you qualify for 1B, and then if you do, take the survey. And I'll just say it right here and right now. You can paint 1B with a pretty big brush.
Right.
So there you have it. But yeah, go to the VDH website. That's the big thing. And then also you can break it down to the Rappahannock-Rapidan health system, and then from there you follow all the links to get you to that survey.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more of just a fact-finding thing of how many people are wanting. It's sort of like what we're doing in-house. We're just trying to get a feel for how many people actually want the vaccine, because there may not be as many as we think. Although I am finding that now that vaccine is being distributed, people who originally said they're not interested, all of a sudden are now interested. So you see what I'm saying? All those numbers change.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you. Roger?
Christmas is officially open. Cool.
Is it gonna be shorter than last night? Yeah, go ahead, Barry. Hold on a second, Roger. Barry, tell us about what's going on at the school. Any questions for Barry and the school board? No. Very good. Thank you very much, Barry. Sorry. Roger.
Christmas has been taken down and stored. We did have a lady call today and she donated 2 brand new trees for the courthouse for next year. A couple wreaths and some bows. They're gonna be picked up tomorrow, put in storage also. We sold 5 cars on Gov Deals for $15,176. That was sent directly to deposit. Been cleaning up some stuff with sheriff's office, courts and everything, spraying buildings and everything just to keep everybody safe. And the project started down the hill on Monday. They've been demoing down there. I think everything's going pretty good down there.
Good. Any questions for Rod? You still using the trustees more than any other county?
I don't think not more than any other county, but they haven't started picking up trash here yet. They're doing some of that green, but they have me look at that decorations down, put those away and some other little projects ahead. Looks good.
Good for you. Brian?
All right, I'm going to give you guys a quick progress report. Dealing with 2 major projects right now, and kind of give you guys an idea where we're at. First, Next Generation 911 EZNet is currently deployable in the Commonwealth. There are 3 PSAPs in the Commonwealth that have been deployed right now, and several more that are getting really, really close. Our target date is sometime in May. For the most part, we're close to being ready. We have 1 fiber run already in the building. A second one should be in within a month. We're still having to deal with the second path to be established. I got a quote on that. The state approved that quote today to reimburse us for that. So that should be going up fairly quickly. The best upgrade is completed and operational. We have one last piece of that to do. We will do that when the EZNet gets close to being installed because it is dependent on connectivity to the EZNet. It's a firewall that deals with text to 911. Text to 911 is active and operational right now in a web form. We do not have the last and final piece of that, which is a fourth vendor to come on and say, yes, we're operational and test that out. The three main ones, Sprint, Verizon, and AT&T have all tested and successfully. But I'm waiting to make an announcement on that till we get that fourth one done. Geocom maps, we're transitioning away from the traditional essential servers in our building. We had two $20,000 servers that were end of life. Rather than replace those with a cloud-based version, which is also cheaper annually. We should have that covered by the 26th. The radio project, the big one, tower sites are progressing. We're negotiating still with the Hughes River site. There will be a balloon test this Thursday at Hoover Ridge. I will take a look at that. And I'm also getting meetings together with Ligon every 2 weeks to keep the planning department involved with this so that we don't miss anything, for lack of a better term. It is a very tedious process. Greenfield sites, again, are Hoover Ridge and Hughes River. Those are coming along fairly nicely. Beautiful Run site is completed for all intents and purposes. The only thing we have to do is put our infrastructure in it. Anticipate that being sometime mid or late spring. My projections are correct. Blakey Tower is still in a holding pattern, but we've got really good feeling on that. Basically, we're just trying to get these other two greenfields knocked out before we move too much into them. Design, we've completed complex design review with all the CDR and system staging. System components have all been shipped to the area from Chicago that are in staging waiting installation. This was also the second deadline, which MJ will talk about here in a few minutes. The timeline will depend on the green site construction. If it takes 2 months to build those two towers, then this will go quickly. I don't anticipate that. It is winter time. It's a mess out there right now. There's a lot of red tape to get through. The last part of that are grants. I'm currently pursuing the 2020 AFG grant, which is Assistance to Firefighter grant. Is a FEMA grant. The pool this year is $319,000,025. We have a better chance of obtaining that through the fire department because there's a larger pool of money in that. The plan is to apply for the grant through the Madison County Volunteer Fire Department with MIMS, Greene County EMS, Rutgersville Fire Department, Stantonville Fire Department, and Dyke Fire Department. It's sub-outlets. Or I talked to Greene County, they're getting all their information over there now. I've got to have this information together by Monday. It's not a marathon, it's a sprint, no doubt. For anything between 20,000 and $1 million population, our headboard is $1 million for the region, which pretty much cuts down the middle to 500,000 per county. I don't know if Greene County's going to want to say that we have 4 departments versus your 2. You go down that road, and we're still talking about that. And long story short, if we get full funding on this, it's not going to cover all the radio costs for fire and rescue. We're looking somewhere in the area of $645,000, $655,000 for all the radios. But if we get $500,000, that's a large chunk. There is a 10% match on that, so if we do get $500,000, we got to pay $50,000. And then pay $450, excuse me. So I have contacted Vickers Consulting, who has done a lot of AFG grants. They actually went to the fire department 5 years ago and was successful in getting the AirPack grant. Good people to work with. Their charge is $500 per participating agency. In Madison, we have a fire department and EMS, which also encompasses the rescue squad. So we're looking at $1,000 for us and then the 10% match. What I'd like to ask the board to do is to assist the fire department financially with this grant. And we talked about this a little bit last year, but we want to play in position to put it like that. You need $500. We need $1,000, and then $50,000. We get $500.
Oh no, 51K for 500 sounds pretty good to me.
Again, there's no guarantee this is going to pan out. But we don't know. We won't try.
We also.
So Brian, when do you, so you're in negotiations with Greene County and whatnot right now. When will you need to have a decision by the board on that?
vigorous consultant contracts would need to be signed before the grant closes. They're gonna need that fairly quickly. Inside, say, the next week and a half, 2 weeks.
So you need a commitment from us
Right,
right now.
right.
And the $1,000, that covers
Right.
fire company and then,
As long as he's.
yeah, all right, there you go. We all want to.
I'm good with it.
Everybody
I mean,
Need a motion,
Motion.
John Gregg?
Yes.
Do something.
I move to appropriate $500 for both the fire, volunteer firemen and the emergency
Yes, sir.
MEMS to support the grant application.
Yeah.
1,000, or a total of $1,000.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Easy. All right, anything else?
That's it.
Mr. Others? Good to see you. You have anything to add this evening? Anytime you're here, we're not calling you.
No, just saying hello to everybody, Ron's done a great job, we're a good team.
And if anyone hasn't known, this is Rachel Crawford Tash. She's our trades coordinator.
Nice to meet you.
We're a good team.
We figure you've got things under control. Tracy, what do you got?
Okay. IDA meeting last night, they approved the resolution for the various financing documents. Best news I've got is Health and Wellness Medical Services is now open next to Piedmont Deli. Private medical practice with Fanny Oates, and we spoke over the holidays, and their grand opening is February 6th. She's already been doing house calls, and they will have rapid testing for COVID-19 as well. I've offered a socially distanced ribbon cutting. And what I've been wanting to say as well, but it's still, I found out today that another practice is planning on opening, is just waiting to sign the final paperwork. And they got put behind because of the holidays. And we have another business from Murfreesboro that's trying to purchase property in Madison. And also one looking to start up just 2 glamping sites, so we're working on that too. We sent out the Rebuild Virginia over the holidays, and we just sent out the new the small business development loans, and the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center, as I said, started January, but our same guy from Culpeper can still help our businesses as well. And they've been really helping our businesses in 2020 and this year. Most everything else is on there. We got our new brochures finally. I've left some here, and I'll be trying to distribute those. And on the weekends, our part-time people are sending out, we had leads racked up to about 3,000. Have not gotten our performance agreement yet from VDEX for revelation, and that is also in the report from Central Virginia Partnership. And that really was, again, the first one they did during COVID with the state. So they've talked about that on almost every Zoom call. And there's also digital proof of my 585 Zoom calls from last year. Crafting New Normal had another webinar today, and that was from Nelson and our $40,000 grant for last year. And it was just Madison and Nelson, but because it's Go Virginia, we're actually supporting all 166 craft brewing wineries and trainings and all the information they need. Cloud Hearth reached out to me this afternoon, and I put that out on Facebook as well. They had ordered pedestal heaters that restaurants and outdoor venues use, and they're not going to give them time to sell them, so they're offering to donate to businesses. So put that out to contact them for that. And Mad Local is closed for 2 weeks due to necessary precautions for COVID. And then Ball Shop is reopening on Friday with Wood Fire Pizza Kitchen plus cider, Virginia wines, international wines, and more.
And more.
And more.
A lot of stuff going on there, Tracy. Shop with the kitchen and all this. We talked about broadband earlier. It would seem that having Tracy on your task force may be helpful. Is that something you'd be able to utilize?
You interested?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Okay.
And also, I've spoken to Nathan at Comcast, spoken to REC. They're just not in a position. I just got the Virginia Business Magazine, which talked about Shenandoah Valley, and yet again, it's their cooperative who's doing the work. Our cooperative's just not there yet. So, but yes.
It's been alluded to twice in planning commission meetings. The REC potentially got some of the rural broadband money, but there is pending litigation.
Oh,
And that is one of the potential reasons that they are
not willing to.
holding it close to the,
Got it.
and it pertains to easements, which is super, super interesting. But, I mean, maybe that's something we should try to figure out. Yeah, it is interesting, I mean, good work. Something to maybe think about.
And on that line too, I did do a little test run with 2 people using office space for office sharing, so we'll get back with Sean on that.
Well, exactly, Marvin.
They said it worked perfectly for them. They're on John Mountain and theirs has been spotty, and so they reached out and said, when we're ready, they're willing, so. And they opted for monthly versus $25 a day, so that's awesome.
We prefer Monday as well. Our new tech apprentice, April. Anything going on in the world, April? This one. All right. MJ.
Okay, so I'm gonna address what's happened since the last board meeting, which was in the middle or early. As you know, we got our CAPR file. I'm gonna just say that that's probably the first time in Madison County history that you actually met your statutory deadline. That's not a small thing. Our books, as you probably know, we've been missing one full-time person in the finance department since the beginning of September. And that has slowed things down. No way to avoid that. But our books are currently current. We are up to date on paying all the bills. We are basically done with care spending. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. And every board approved budget item has been recorded. So you have a current set of books right now. There is a backlog of supplements that are very time consuming to figure out. And unfortunately, I delivered them today, but it was too late for you guys to work on them. So you'll have to consider them. But only 2 things that are still outstanding. There's still some adjustments due on ENS that Noah and I didn't have a chance to work through. Bruce was unable to get quotes on the fiber for the 410 and 414 before he had hospital procedure, so he was out for a couple days. He was unable to get them before he left. There will be more cell phone rentals as time goes on, or cell tower site rentals, which will have to come out of the budget before the end of the year. Probably the most significant thing is in our numbers right now, the Rappahannock Juvenile Detention Center, we finally got our large credit back from them because they charged us on a 3-year rolling average, and we had a spike in usage a couple of years ago. We got like an $80,000 credit from them, and we have an $80,000 budgetary favorable variance that'll stay there until the end of the year. We are currently out of contingency balance for the entire year. We've expended it all, at least if you go through all the supplements I prepared. So my proposal is to use that 75 and restore contingency for it. Even if you do that, you only have 25,000. So we have burned through a very significant amount of contingency. We did, because we were trying to make cuts last year, we did cut our contingency balance that was put into the 2021 budget is lower than it normally is. We've had very high leave payouts this year, over 50,000 so far this year. And, but one other positive is because the budget was done before we refinanced, we will have about a $600,000 savings from where we thought we were going to be. It's not in contingency, it's not appropriated, but we will be $600,000 positive in terms of use fund balance because of that savings on refinancing the debt. There's still a lot of work to do, but I feel like we've made a lot of progress on that. I want to talk a little bit about care spending. We closed out our care spending. Just as we were closing it out, the state said, oh, by the way, you have another year to spend it. But they told us that on December 30th. But right now, the only thing that was authorized to be spent that is still unpaid is that 4th ambulance. Everything else has been, the checks have been cut, they've been paid. All of the MOU, all of the outside organizations have been paid. There are, right now, we have about $16,000 left on CARES Fund, and there are some outstanding requests. BASAP declined to sign their MOU in December because they were worried they couldn't spend it all. So they are interested, if we would be interested in getting that money back to them, they are interested in restoring an MOU or signing a new MOU. The town of Madison had originally asked the county for 25, and then they came back and said, can we have 26 and some change? And at that point, we couldn't give them any more because we had to have executed an additional MOU with them. So the question is, are you interested in doing that? And then on top of that, my 2 recommendations for how to spend down the rest of that money is that Roger is continuing to incur monthly bills from Cintas for hand sanitizing stations all over the county. My recommendation would be that we continue to charge that to that $16,000. And we're also providing Brian Gordon with home internet for like emergency purposes. And I would recommend that we were using CARES money to pay for that. We can continue to pay for that as well. And I think we'll still have a little bit of money left, but yeah. I just need authorization to keep doing that because it wasn't in the original thing.
The town needs, what, $1,600?
Yeah.
Somewhere around.
Everybody good on the town, getting an additional $1,600. They've got a security system, new ramp, and then some new stuff for the DMV or whatever.
Okay, and then is it okay to move forward with a new MOU with ASAP? Which is what they asked for originally.
How much did they?
They originally asked for 5,000. And then we gave them the MOU in December, but their board was worried that they wouldn't be able to spend it all, and so they declined to execute.
They all fine.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
And then your idea of charging, PPE.
Not PPE, hand sanitizer stations.
Yeah, all right. All right, Cintas stuff, sounds realistic, and then also on Braun.
We'll have a little bit of money left over, so I'd say like in June, we should probably look at it again and decide, who needs it, what can be done. So there's a couple other things. As you know, we've had accounting manager interviews, and we did them on December 28th. We found a qualified candidate. We offered him a job, and today he declined it, which I'm very upset about. But so we're back to the drawing board on that. We're going to have to talk about. I cannot survive for another couple months without additional staff. It's just I don't know what the alternatives are, but I need to find some. I need to find them relatively quickly. I would also like approval from the board in the meantime to take my temporary part-time accounts payable person and turn that into a permanent job. Because at least it gives me immediate 40-hour-a-week staffing. And that is, it's like, I simply cannot do the work of 3 people in that department. Even if I work 90 hours a week, which I'm physically incapable of doing.
All right, on both of them, let's start with the person, or not the person, but the position that got turned down. It would appear that you, Cardi and Hobbs need to regroup, figure out what direction we go from here, and then come back to it.
So the only thing I would be interested in is a flexibility to go outside of the whole advertising again. Because I've asked around, at this point in time, is it permissible to ask around and get some names?
We'll get together on
Because
that.
I have at least one person.
y'all three need to come together and come up with a plan. Being removed from that process, giving my arbitrary opinion, I mean, everybody's going to refer back to you all, I assume at this point. Is that right? Upper tier. All right.
Let's get together tomorrow then.
Okay.
See if we can get that going.
I'm really upset, I'm very disappointed in that, because I think the person would be great.
Yeah. All the punches, figure out a new direction.
Um,
The other one, on your part-time help going full-time, what would you cover that with, the remainder of our previous employees' salary?
I mean, we have savings right now, because I have somebody who's working less than 40 hours a week, and she's getting no fringes, and she's getting paid less than an hour rate than my other person. So there's tons of cushion in my budget right now to pay for that.
For the odds, I mean, I don't have any split there, as long as it is a temporary fix, I don't think that's a problem.
I mean, but as on a full-time permanent basis, I can do that.
It's a temporary full-time basis, yes.
With health insurance?
We can talk about that maybe.
But during the budget time, yeah.
Okay. I mean, but the problem is that I'm limited to using her for 30 hours a week because we don't give, because of the health insurance issue. If you have somebody, so I don't even have a full-time person in that job right now. And I really need 40 hours a week from someone.
Talk about it, and if y'all can come up with some type of plan, I'll have it already. If y'all have any issue, I mean, covering this. I mean, figure out a plan and come back to us.
Okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about the IT project because I know there's some concern that's been stalled. I have had an enormous workload in the last couple of months. I think I faced an enormous number of challenges. I am very hesitant, I have been very hesitant to start that process because once you flip the switch on that, you're dealing with multiple consultants that are billing you $200 and $300 an hour. So you got to get your ducks in a row before you can start a project like that. We aren't quite there, but we're getting very close. I just felt it was more responsible to delay than to get into a situation where you were burning through consultant hours at hundreds of dollars an hour. That's my take on that. We have done a little bit of work on that where we've been talking to Tyler and Avanity related to setup issues. I've given Tyler some information related to configuration, and I know Bruce was working with Avanity last week. Unfortunately, I can't translate what he does into anything understandable. So
It appears that we're moving in the right direction. Clerk's being caught up, Bill's all up to date. Supplements that I know we do have to, we'll get to those on the 21st. We are going into budget season, as we all know, which is stressful and tremendous amounts of work for both you and Bob and everybody that works in Madison County. The tech thing, we should need to get back going.
Well, I mean, I still fully intend to get, and hopefully have a kickoff meeting before the end of January.
Brian Daniels is
I know
expressing
they're-
he
I know-
likes RDA a lot, but we
Yeah.
still need to implement this Tyler system and get this thing going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Anything else on Jai? You did mention that we need to do the resolution that you included earlier. Does that have to be done tonight, or can we do that on the 21st?
Well, I mean, technically, in your consent items, you approved payment of the almost $2 million payment to Motorola, but you don't have an appropriation on the books to pay for that. So I'm a little nervous about doing, I mean, it's up to you. We'll let Sean say whether you think you need to pass a resolution to do that, or can you?
I would pass it.
If we did get earlier today, and it's the one of 22 document. You're talking about the resolution 2020-26, I assume? Capital
No,
budgets.
It's 2021-2. 2021, it's a resolution, not a supplemental. What it does is it appropriates the rest of the balance in the original budget for the admin building project, and it appropriates the the precise dollar amount that's due to, and I think Motorola is expecting it this week.
Is that a Word document?
Yes, it's at the bottom.
I have it as saying,
It's a Word document.
I have it as 2020-26. That's what it says there.
I thought that was the one, that was the one from October.
Yeah, that's not the right one.
So,
Which one is it? Because I see all supplements and no resolution.
Can you go up a little bit?
all videos. So for one, so.
Oops.
I didn't send the right one. I have it on, do you want it on file?
Do you have it? What do you have? All right, let's pause on the MJ. I do notice we have Larissa Berry on go to meeting. Larissa, what's going on down in your office? Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can. Yeah. Sounds very good. Anybody have any questions for Clarissa?
No.
Are the videos entertaining at least?
Yeah, can you binge watch?
Or helpful? Ah, excellent. That should be enjoyable.
That'll be fine.
Very good. Budget season's coming, I'm sure he does. Thank you, Clarissa. Also, we have Mike Moscow. Mike, do you have anything to add from the planning commission? Anything, Mike? All right, thank God for the work on here. MJ, you got anything yet? Still working?
Yeah,
on it?
no, I found it, I had to get onto my, I can email it, you want me to email it to you?
All right,
Give me 2 minutes and I'll email
We're-
it back.
all right.
I can email it to all of you.
Well, email it to us and then we can knock out now. Let's move into, old business while we're waiting here. Bob, do you have anything else on the COVID-19 in Madison and preparation for the meeting?
No, just, had a conversation I wanted, but we're still looking for good ideas.
Thanks, Alvin. Right Ms. Todd, still stuff the venue for the budget presentation and board meeting.
Yes, it kind of moved faster than I anticipated, but the contractor says they're going to kick us out of this space between the March and June timeframe this year for the renovation project. So we need to find somewhere else to meet. It's started moving around. It looks like the general district courtroom might be the preferred alternative. Roger Berry and Sean Gregg have been working with those folks to try to make sure that's lined up. We don't have that confirmed yet. That space is owned, if you will, by the court system, so we have to get clearance for that. Looks very promising, but not a certainty. There are some other spots we could move to in a pinch, but just want to make sure the board's aware that we do need to change venues. This is a little time sensitive in that if there are any public hearings that need to take place, we need to know that several weeks in advance. So certainly be helpful if we could get this thing down by January. Continuing on, it's not only an issue for this body, but we have any number of groups that meet in this space. And so made an effort to put everybody on notice of this. I'm not trying to tell any of those groups, the IDA, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Planning Commission, the RSA, where they have to meet or anything like that. But we're trying to suggest that there are other spots around the town, the county that they could be meeting at, and they need to make their decisions on that as they expect to meet somewhere and they need to change venues and go through all the public notices required for that. Another issue is this business about budget presentations. I know that the recent tradition is to have all these at the fire department. The fire department is, the lady I work with has indicated that they'll try to make accommodations for us, but they're a little bit uncomfortable with having more than 10 people in that room, and I understand that. That's something the county could push, but given what we have today with our circumstances, what I'd suggest, at least for budget work between now and the end of February, we could use this room. I have taken requests from different people that prefer to present remotely with the video and YouTube system so that they don't have to come into a room with so many people. So I think you're going to get some of that. So you might not see some of the folks you usually see face to face in the same room during this procedure this year. We have yet to get all that worked out. Just want to make sure the board is comfortable with where we have the timetable for the construction project is such that we're not going to be able to use this room for a good part of this fiscal year. And we need to find other space, and so we're making arrangements for that. If you have a preference for other space that's not the War Memorial, please let us know. As always, looking for a better idea. That's where we're going right now.
Well, Larissa has texted me and she says that courtroom is small. General district, is that for War Memorial?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. She said that potentially maybe the circuit courtroom would be better and larger. Which one's that? That's the main one?
That's the main
one. Yeah. This out real nice, but maybe that's the place that we can investigate.
Jack, why couldn't we use the main hall at the firehouse? See about that. I don't think they're renting that out a whole lot right now.
Is that an option for us, Ron?
I mean, there's a lot of space in there.
I guess we can drag these tripods on up there. Not in front of us. What?
We have a PA in there.
It's a two-way video that we're done. And I suppose a larger space like that would be good for these joint meetings. It's not just 5 plus 9 and all the rest of us that could do this thing. So, not just 5 people, it's 5 people in the audience.
The only issue that would appear with the fire company is they're about to start using that parking lot going into 1B and then potentially 2 with the loading up the whole different floor. Would we be in those people's space? John Shear. Sorry, with vaccines going on at the fire hall, is that, would we be in the way?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I was really in the way.
all right.
I got you first. Like I say, let's, this is all brand new, to throw this out there on the table. So let me research that. Because right now, we sort of made a commitment to the health department. That's what we, first round.
We know we're gonna need some space. Apparently the circuit courtroom, looking at you, Ms. Locke, maybe, yeah, that's pretty good.
There's actually more room in the general court.
Yeah.
As far as these.
I don't care where we meet.
And honestly, I don't know if it's gonna be, well, right now they're doing Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I don't know how far they're gonna ramp that up. Timetable, I don't know.
After the first round, it's gonna be drive-through.
Correct. After the first round, but one of these.
All right, is everybody happy as long as we get to meet and we can do some of these meetings and hopefully we have space to distance and all the different protocols?
I will bring that to the membership fire company at our next meeting and get it clear that it does.
There you go, and Bob's gonna look into different courtrooms and Roger, I'm sure will assist, and that fair? All right.
There's a good sized room, upstairs to the War Memorial Building too, right, Roger?
Yeah,
Like for PRA?
That's a good one.
It's a, all right.
It's just some people getting up the steps maybe.
Now they've got the thing.
I thought it didn't work.
What?
I thought it didn't work.
Lift.
Oh, it worked.
Oh, it did work.
I'll test it. All right, I see MJ has sent, anything else on this off? I see MJ has sent this, email to us. Let's look at this resolution real quick.
So the 3,145,000 is the total of what's left from the original budget, where both the admin building project and said it's the exact amount of what you owe on the Motorola contract. The reason you have two appropriations in that amount is because the debt proceeds are actually sitting in the general fund, so you have to move them into the county capital projects. That's why you have the total. It's the way you have to do it, unfortunately.
That always kills me. We're not spending $6 million.
It's the rule.
Okay.
Anybody have questions on this? We all want to.
What is the number? 2021-02. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve resolution 2021-02.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. All the other supplementals we should expect to be on our agenda on the 21st, our first budget meeting.
And you'll have some more besides that.
All right.
Probably that I didn't.
When will we get those?
Well, the ones that are left are either I don't have the information or, it's a joint effort between me and Noah, so it's kind of like, we have to go back and,
Give them to us a couple days before.
I hope to have them done, the EMS ones, I hope to have done this.
Very good.
I may not have the other ones done.
But the more time we get.
Yeah,
I'm sure we can
I
understand.
understand that.
Yes, ma'am. All right, let's go to five. Anything else on this one? Let's go to 5B. Candace Clatterbox brought this up to our attention, and we've received a handful of emails from part-time deputies. Apparently, there's 3 part-time deputies in court security, and then 1 part-time investigator. And then I'm inclined to lump Ms. Clatterbox in there as well. We forgot about the 4 part-time deputies when we did the bonus, the $500 bonus for sheriff's deputies and dispatchers. I'm inclined to go ahead and approve it for all 5 of those individuals. It's $538 after FICA per individual and a quarter. I figured we can come up with that, make it equitable.
Yep, I agree.
And I don't think we didn't intentionally
No,
go.
it was-
Yeah. We pretty
What
quick.
information you have.
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but we could have used some help. No, you know, just identifying the folks. I got to hear, you know, I was served on grand jury on Monday, and I got to hear some of those gentlemen. I don't know if they knew who I was or not, but I got to hear the story behind the story, whether they meant to tell me or not. They were not happy. So I'm in favor of it.
You want to make a motion and maybe
Wait,
pass by?
so yeah, so who specifically is it that we're,
There's three, what's my suggestion is there's three, this is according to Candace, and she didn't ask for herself, she really didn't ask. I'm throwing her in here, I put Candace Clatterbuck, the sheriff's secretary assistant, I don't know what her title is, but Candace Clatterbuck, a part-time investigator that I assume is up there at the ABC building, and then 3 part-time people that work in court security.
okay. So I move to increase, to offer the $500, well, it's $538.25 for Candace Clatterbuck, a part-time investigator, and the court security staff for the deputy sheriff.
That should be a total of 4 people, or it should be a total of ranges of 2,100.
5 people.
And I believe there was at least one part-time deputy that I know of, right?
Now he's included.
Court security.
No, it's court security, okay.
We're talking,
$3,000.
we're talking $13,456.25.
No,
The total cost for 5 people at $500 is $2,691.
Yeah, $2,691.
So I'll second Kevin's motion.
There you go. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Sorry, we overlooked these individuals. We just didn't know. Hearing no more discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And Amber votes aye. There you go. All right. Revised Leathers Lane position statement. Mr. Gregg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is posted on the website. As far as the county is concerned, and as you're all aware, we've had this issue come up at multiple meetings. We've received input from most of the residents or users of the road. The changes are set forth in the documents that are listed as pages 222, 223, and 224 on our materials that are posted for this afternoon's meeting. The big changes, we have something with regard to snow removal. That was not included before, probably because when we were putting this together with the summertime. And this is under 9H. It indicates that any resident may plow snow on the road. A snow plower shall ensure that snow is displaced, that snow that is displaced is not placed on any neighbor's property or blocking any neighbor's driveway. All such snow plowing is done at the snow plower's risk. The idea being that if people have an emergency or need to get out of their property, they have a means to do that. With many rural roads, and I live on one, it's typically not plowed ditch to ditch. The idea would be that neighbors would use common sense and some understanding among themselves to make sure that that's not a problem. With regard to the protocol in terms of how to change things, I would direct your attention to section 9 of the agreement. This is the one that is dated Madison County's position on Leathers Lane, January 12, 2021. We are requesting that the people who live there provide us email addresses. The reason for that is so that it is easier for the county to distribute information with regard to any work that is proposed on the property. And if you read paragraph 9E. The idea is that they would submit their proposal to the county administrator. County administrator would distribute it to the neighbors. We have some timeframes where people would discuss it. Again, the hope is that the neighbors in that neighborhood will start coming to a consensus with this. If they are unable to do that, then it would wind up in front of the Board of Supervisors. I have suggested that, just out of consideration to the other people who attend meetings, that this matter be scheduled last on our agenda, just so other people who have business before the county can leave. The idea, and we've seen it in previous meetings, everyone wants to have the last word. That becomes a bit time consuming. And we also want to make sure we're making decisions without feeling the pressure of moving things so quickly that we might overlook some things that are important. And again, I think the county's position remains that they encourage the residents up there to restore some harmony among themselves. And we hope that this proposal will go some length to doing that. And I defer to Mr. Cobb with any additional comments that I have not covered here. He worked with me pretty extensively on the revisions to this document, including going through all of the commentary that we had from the neighbors and the interested parties.
Awesome.
The volume of that material, the comments we got from the neighbors and property owners are very substantial. You all have had a copy of it. We did use some of that. It's our opinion of what this document ought to say, as well as what Mr. Whitney's recommendation for Mr. Whitney's proposal.
What do you think about our position, our updated position statement?
Yeah, I agree with it.
Anybody else got any comments here? Ms. Little?
I have a couple things on the position. The first thing, I think it's kind of a glaring omission, is about, there's nothing in here about items in the right of way, because that's been a big issue in the past.
There is.
And we would suggest something that says, for instance, no citizen shall foster tree, bush growth, place barriers, markers, logs, debris, or any other objects on property owned by Madison County, and such items shall be removed. In fact, we will keep, kind of pushing us to following VDOT guidelines, and it says on the VDOT website, state maintained right of way is property along a roadway on either side. The area does not belong to individual property owners, and it must be kept clear for motorist safety, and so work crews have room to work. So I would ask, especially because it's been a problem in the past, that that's added so that it's crystal clear that nothing goes in the right of way. I have some other comments going along here. On 9A, any design improvements in 11th Lane shall meet applicable Virginia Department of guidelines for public roads. So that we're following the correct guidelines, we would ask that maybe you provide us exactly what documents on the VDOT website that we're to refer to. This is the easy one. As far as sending our email addresses, if you could let us know who specifically this should go to.
County administrator. Send all email addresses to county administrator.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, on 9E, this is having to do with how we're supposed to articulate any request we might have, I guess, plain gravel or whatever, but it feels to me a little bit that we're being asked to perform the work of an HOA, which we do not have, thank goodness. But we kind of feel that because you all are the owners of the road and you maintain contact information through tax record, that the county really should be the ones disseminating material when someone asks to have work done, as opposed to us sending something to every one of the homeowners. with the county, like how, for instance, I think when we did ours to get the work area 1 and 2 done, actually, I personally thought went pretty smoothly. Came to y'all, disseminated it, talked about, and it got done. As far as, this is just a little side thing on, about signs and the, you know, putting up signs. That, you know, if at some time we want to put up something more like safety signs, like children at play, because for instance, the Liberties do have grandchildren there. You know, maybe a sign like that, or we do have dogs that jump out in front of cars. If we send it to Mr. Hodge, just like we would any other request, you know, for approval.
One of the requests or changes or additions was that no signs can be placed in the county's right of way without express written approval from the Board of Supervisors and the administrator. VDOT has a program to where you can apply for signs in the right of way, so you will want to have the same privilege since you are the custodian of the control and safety and smooth. No signs is kind of a good thing, but there are good signs that can be placed in the right of way if they have written approval from Mr. Hodge, Mr. Gregg, or the Board of Supervisors.
And the last thing I have to do with the snow removal, we're not against people removing snow, believe me, that's not what we're against, but I do have a question at the end of paragraph of the snow removal. It says it's being done at the snow plower's risk. Do you mean at their own risk, whereas if they hurt themselves, they can't sue you guys? Or are you saying that, well, really what we would like to add is anyone removing snow will be held responsible for any damage that may or may not, or may occur to the road service as a result of the snow removal. I'm not quite sure.
Or their personal welfare.
I'm not sure what at your own risk.
Includes everything.
Yes, all of the above. All of the above.
Okay.
And I go to the same, I know that it would be helpful if we could put every little last detail into this. It's not gonna happen, just not. No resident shall erect any signs on the property owned by Madison County on any such sign shall be removed. If you have a sign that you want, it would be like doing work on the road.
Okay.
A proposal must come to us. I think on our side, if we can get everybody's email and work is submitted to us, is it a challenge for us to send it out as one bulk email off?
Because we're afraid that if somebody, just by happen chance, forgets to add somebody to the email by mistake, not on purpose, that nobody would really.
I mean, I got one. Yeah, go ahead.
There are a couple things going on here. I guess the main thing is we want to encourage the folks along the street to work together. They can share emails, work things out to the extent practical against the county. That's certainly a good thing. I do think that at some point the county has to send out the master final thing just to that. But every time you inject one of these steps, it extends the approval process, and so you worry about that. But the motivation for having the neighbors communicate with each other is that they would maybe be able to work some of these things out before it got to the county, or at least most of the folks up there would know what was going on without the county being involved in the early stages of one of these proposals.
I guess all in all, I guess one of my main things is the objects.
And the objects, go to 9B. No private citizen shall have the right to change the existing road. If you're putting stuff in the road, flags, cinder blocks, rakes, I don't know, trees, why not? If you are intentionally putting stuff in that right of way, you're in violation. And what in the road?
In the road.
Okay, so it's covered under that.
And I think we are calling it trespass if you don't have permission. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
One point, Mr. Chairman, since you brought it up, right of way and roadway are terms of art It's why we go to school for 3 extra years, but, the roadway refers to the actual surface. Right of way is really a legal theory. And the significance of it is, and I've forgotten the specific width of the right of way. But the road is smaller.
50 feet.
50, I think it's 50. Okay, but the road is considerably narrower than 50 feet. 25.
All right, so keep stuff out of the roadway. Keep stuff out of the roadway.
It has to include the right of way, because that's how you pass people when you're going along the road.
I think that, like, the place that I'm thinking of is where Daryl's got trees in front of his house is probably within the 50-foot right of way. I would guess that everybody along that road that has any kind of trees is in violation of this. So the roadway is what we've got to base it on, not based on the right of way. Is that correct, Sean Gregg?
I believe that's the clearest way.
I think so too.
And with I like very much ways to them, just because that's how people in rural areas with narrow roadways handle it.
In general,
That's what we
so
expect.
exactly. All right.
Can I say something? I think one of the objections is that there's been a change in the roadway because of certain things that have been done. The size and the shape of the road has been changed. And we'd like it to go back to the way it was 5 years ago.
I don't know what that means.
I'm not going back 5 years. I've gone up there and drove. Hobbs has been up there.
I've been up there.
Sean Gregg and his Buick. Ms. Hoffman, we all drive up there. You have a wonderful road. A wonderful road. It is crazy that we keep doing this. And I really want to say to everybody, and I know it's hard for everybody, but I'm good neighbors, everybody.
Yeah, I don't.
That doesn't mean anything, but that's what it is.
So
Yeah,
just a silly question. So if I want to put something in the right of way, I'm allowed to.
What would you want to put in the right of way? A
A
neon sign? Probably not.
A tree.
Again, I question the wisdom of why you would want to do that unless you just wanted to provoke your neighbor.
Correct.
If it is.
Being honest.
The significance of that is that it kind of depends on the type of tree. I mean, if you're planting a weeping willow or something that is going to shade onto the road, yeah, you got a problem, because at that point, it's affecting the actual roadway.
And phones.
And so
I mean, we're back to the same.
No more, no, listen. Everybody's in favor, I think, on the board of this position statement. If,
Yes.
And
What?
if you think your neighbors are doing something wrong, file a nuisance action against them in circuit court.
duly noted.
the other side is if things happen, like what you're suggesting, trees on the right of way and stuff, I guarantee that I personally will think about that moving forward and improving any kind of work that is happening up on Leathers Lane. And I would hope that other board members do, if that's the action of residents up there that are acting in petty ways. Shouldn't be the way to do it. What do y'all want to do on this action segment? Anybody else have comments, thoughts on this? What would y'all like to do?
No, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Madison County's position on Leathers Lane, statement dated January 12th, 2021.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Let's talk about the next one on this list.
Yes, sir.
Amber says aye. Hold on. We're going to the next item. Whitby's proposal on Leathers Lane maintenance. Hobbs?
Yes, sir. Back in November, Mr. Whitby made a proposal to put gravel down on two sections of the road. It's the section, if you look at the screen, at the top of the road, where it comes off the state maintenance into the work that was done earlier, and then the area right in front of his property he owns there, lot 20, I believe it is. So that's the work zone. But he made a fairly extensive proposal. He's got 5 different points here in different areas. We shopped this to the neighbors and adjacent property owners to see what they had to say about it. Got some comments back and so forth. And so you have my recommendation on what I believe the board will want to approve in your package, and it's on the screen. I can go through this if you want. There's scheduling issues in terms of putting neighbors on notice before any gravel goes down, and then a timely completion. This is for this project only. There's no long-term maintenance to be approved here. That would be handled under the position statement you just passed. So the idea is that this work would start as soon as Mr. Whitby's able to get it together, but it would need to be finished by April 14.
What do y'all think?
Yeah, I've got one thing here. On number 8, Jack, it ends up saying, which shall be operated only by a driver licensed to operate vehicles on public roads that live in the dwelling at lot 20. Well, I was on the phone with the sheriff, and there is a court order that gives Mr. Whitby the right to drive on that. I don't know whether he's got a license now or not, and I don't really care, but I'd like to strike that.
May I speak on that? It was my understanding, and I don't want to mention the name because I could be wrong, but it's somebody that would be in the know, is that the Board of Supervisors can stop someone from using equipment on the road. Specifically, I'm going to just say it's Daryl, because of what the restriction is about. And I've been trying not to embarrass Daryl in any way, but there is, I don't know if you would want someone with this type of restriction actually working on any other county road. But the board, I understand, can.
If the state of Virginia has allowed him to drive on the road, I mean, what else is there?
I was on the phone with the sheriff, Mr. Chairman, and he said, I am holding in my hand a court order.
I think early on there was an idea that who's going to be driving the tractor and who's not. So the idea was that either Mr. or Ms. Whitby or whoever's living in that dwelling that has a license would be the only people that would be driving the tractor. That was the intent. Yeah.
You're licensed by the state of Virginia, that's good for me. If they take away a license from anybody, you shouldn't be driving on any of the road. What do y'all think about this?
May I also speak on this a little bit? It's not them. Just would like to say a few things. One thing is I don't know that it is really that clear as to on Mr. Whitby's request exactly where he wants to lay gravel. I also, under the means and methods, we request that Madison County specify that the authorization, if he is allowed to use his tractor after the gravel is laid, is being provided only for this one-time spreading and smoothing of gravel. And it to be completed, let's say, like within 3 days of the installation. Because remember, in the position paper, all licenses are revoked. So we're asking that it may be made clear in your approval that it is a one-time maintenance for this lane of gravel, and to set, like a time frame, like within 3 days after the gravel's been laid. If any additional maintenance is required, that Mr. Whitby should seek approval from county officials as per the now updated position paper. We do have great concerns about Mr. Whitby on his tractor. I won't really go into that. So I think the main thing is that it is set that this is a one-time thing, because if you do give him the allowance to be on his tractor whenever he wants, because he will be on there constantly, then you're showing, again, preferential treatment since all licenses have been revoked.
Anyway, we're just saying that, you know, for one.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yes.
maintenance
Yeah.
3 months ago?
All right. Just in the schedule, section 4, 5, and 6, Mr. Wigby will communicate the actual installation schedule to all other Lane residents in Madison County 7 days prior to the delivery of gravel. The work is to be accomplished within 3 weeks of the start date of communication to the resident, completed before April 14, 2021. Work schedules, inspections, and all communications with Madison County are to be coordinated with Matt Ayler. Our position statement that we just took, that we just passed, doesn't state that licenses are only good for the specific project.
Well, that's exactly.
There you go.
That's the scheme.
So we have a schedule. There will be communication to the residents of Leathers Lane on when it will commence. Matt Ayler will be inspecting it. Work past that, just general maintenance doesn't count. Yes, Mrs. Kirby.
I just have a clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know how wide that, the area is that he's going to put ground on.
Oh, it says that.
Does it say that?
The gravel is to be installed such as travel ways are being maintained for two-way traffic on all portions of Leathers Lane.
Okay. So the grass that's been planted there increase that area.
Yes.
I understand.
I don't think Mr. Whitby's going to waste his gravel on grass. I mean, when you come in there with the dump truck spreads the gravel, there you go. There's your road. Right?
Yes. Yours, Daryl, you got comments on this?
I got facts, photos.
We don't want all that. Hey, anybody want any all that?
No.
No, nobody wants all that.
I'm showing down on the grass.
The grass is part of the road. Am I not right?
All right, we have something in front of us.
Yeah.
What y'all, thoughts, comments, motion, what would y'all like to do?
Let's see, I want to address, I think they said, see number 5, ongoing maintenance. I mean, Mr. Whitby wrote this. Yeah. No, on his proposal.
He's asking
Yeah,
for
all right,
ongoing
there you go.
That's why I brought up.
We are going off of Mr. Hobbs' recommendation, which is page 7.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I'm referring to on acting upon. Does anybody want to modify this, add to it, subtract from it, suggest something different?
No.
No ongoing maintenance, none of that.
So, Mr. Gregg, we need to read this in its entirety, I think.
Are we on agenda page 227? Is that where you're?
226.
226.
It says the top line is larger in font. It says for consideration on January 12th, 2021.
Yes, I believe it's appropriate to read that in its entirety. Sorry.
No, let's do it.
And Mr. Hobbs, you think we should leave the rest of line 8 under means and methods in there?
My thought
Not
is
the
yes,
license.
because the idea was to restrict it to Mr. Whitby, so there wouldn't be anybody else doing the work. He was supposed to do the work himself, and so the intent was to limit it to him.
That's allowing him to do work with his,
For this one project.
right. I'm just concerned that there isn't like a definite deadline noted right here. So
Yes.
Well, it's in there.
By April 14, 2021, the work is to be accomplished within 3 weeks of the start date.
Okay.
If Daryl, and I'm sure he'll do respond, we're hoping he'll be 100% responsible. From when you start the work, so 3 weeks, that's your window. Anything more, anything less, I mean, we're working with this. I agree with you down there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just hard to believe. I gotta say this. my best friend, Mark Goulas and Karen Walton moved into that first house on the right in 2008 or 9. That road from the state maintained road to their house looked like hell. I mean, you had to step on your brakes to get through the potholes. And Daryl, for whatever reason, decided to take it upon himself to fix it. And now I can drive about 10 miles an hour down through there and not be hitting potholes and stuff. It's really nice. But I can tell you that after a number of trips through there, gravel roads, the gravel get kicked out and they need to be raked back in. So under the circumstances, I guess Daryl will go out there or somebody go out there with a hand rake and rake them back in, but it's nice. So with that said, I move to approve Daryl Whitby's November 30th, 2020 proposal to install gravel on Leathers Lane subject to the following conditions and understandings. The scope, number 1, approval is limited to replenishing gravel in the specified work zone. Number 2, maintenance of Leathers Lane following the initial installation of the gravel proposed, including grass cuttings, filling potholes, and plowing snow, is subject to the provisions of the county's then current Leathers Lane position statement, which was just passed. Any future work similar to the project articulated in Mr. Whitby's proposal will require another approval process. Number 3, the proposed work will be funded by Whitby. No Madison County funding has been approved for the activity proposed. For the schedule, number 4, Mr. Whitby will communicate the actual installation schedule to all Leathers Lane residents in Madison County 7 days prior to the delivery of the gravel. Number 5, the work is to be accomplished within 3 weeks of the start date and the communication to residents and completed before April 14th, 2021. Number 6, work schedules, inspection, and all communication with Madison County are to be coordinated with Matt Ayler, madisonco.virginia.gov, 540-948-7514. Means and method, number 7, the gravel is to be installed such that travel ways are being maintained for two-way traffic on all portions of Leathers Lane. Number 8, in addition to machinery required for gravel delivery, motorized equipment for this work is limited to a Yanmar 424 tractor, which shall be operated only by a driver licensed to operate vehicles on both public roads that lives in dwelling at lot 20. Was it 20? Yeah. Number 9, a travel lane is to remain open during construction such that ingress and egress by all property owners, residents, and emergency service vehicles will be unrestricted. And number 10, Mr. Whitby is responsible for any construction, stormwater and/or erosion, sedimentation damage during and following construction until the work is stabilized, whether on the Leathers Lane right of way or private property. That's my motion.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Young. The statement you made that Mr. Whitby's been the only person that has championed and taken the maintenance of the road is not a correct statement. My father-in-law, Herbert Quaton, are good friends, know that.
I don't know that said only, but yeah, go ahead.
And my family, the Cadenbricks and Lenhoffs.
I've read your communications to that effect.
Placed gravel up and down the road for over 30 years. Mr. Whitby has only placed gravel most recently in the last year. So he has scratched and scratched and scratched, but as far as adding additional gravel to the road, Mr. Whitby has just done that in the last year or so. This is
Okay, thank you.
All right. We're done with all business. Can you hear what? Yes, sir.
I've been doing 20 years of
All right.
records, documents.
We passed the position statement. I'm sure we'll be back to this at some point soon. I hope so. I hope that I don't hear about it for a long, long time. Long time. Hope. Daryl, make sure you schedule all this correctly. We'll make sure that everybody gets notified. You've got additional email addresses. One person in the communication, I'm sure you all have read as well, says, just leave us alone. And that's a hard deal. I mean, that is, live a life of parent, is part of this. And that's sad.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One point on the consideration, I think that there is an, in paragraph 6, I believe that there was a typographical error in Mr. Ayler's email address.
Too many eyes.
Too many eyes.
And
none of them are Amber, but mindful of that.
And don't get rid of the Yanmar 424, Daryl, and get another tractor or we're,
All right, moving on. Thank you all. Any new business? No. Information and correspondence. Hobbs, you got any of that? Anybody got any information and correspondence? Back to public comment. Public comment. Public comment. All right, we do a closed session. Please.
I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section number 2.2-3711A1 personnel, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for appointment to the Planning Commission, and 2.2-3711A29, negotiation, discussion of the award of a public contract for a public safety radio antenna tower involving the expenditure of public funds and discussion of the terms or scope